All right, we should be live. Just trying to do an intro a little bit, but wasn't so smooth. We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it. Old old school intro. We'll do more. I'll put that in more usually in the um more pre-produced videos, not the lives. But it's just so good. Still to this, it holds up. It holds up, guys. It really does. Um, but what's up, Chris? Paulina, thank you. Let me know how the sound is. Sounds good. Okay, good. But gosh, that intro, guys, I worked on that for so long. Can't even tell you how annoyed my wife was with it. Yeah, she's commenting about it in the chat. But yeah, it was something that was it was a project. It was a serious project, but it worked. It worked out. So tonight I want to talk about. I like the intro. Me too. It is. It's revolutionary. It's so good. We'll play it again. Let's do it. Let's do it. Holds up, guys. There were some horrible prototypes to that were not like that at all. And actually, I'll show you just because it's funny. But we're going to talk about some old models tonight. But maybe I can actually show you some funny old videos. Intros. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Look at this one. Not the same. Not the same. Not as good. C plus on that one. But it's there, guys. The show used to be called on my old channel the Logos of Logic or Math of Meaning was the very first like idea for a name of the show. This was before I even had this channel started, but I had it on another channel, and I it was first called Math of Meaning, then it was Logos of Logic, and then it was Theory of Everyone. And this was the very first intro. Was screen phone screen dimensions for some reason. I don't even remember why. Guys, we went from that to this. That's hilarious. That just shows, progress, incremental progress, little bits of progress go a long way over time. Actually, here's one more that was in between. I'd ask you which one was your favorite, but I don't even care. I mean, maybe I'd care. Please hit the like button if you found that funny. Cosmic macrame of meaning, exactly. Cosmic macrame of meaning. What? That isn't that bad though. It's not even remotely comparable though. Did you get your current name from Toe Kurt Mongol? That's how I found your channel. I did not get it from Kurt. I made this channel before I knew about Kurt's channel. I don't know if it was made before Kurt's channel, but it's very different. Like, I mean, Kurt. I don't try and compete with Kurt. Kurt does a very different type of content than me. I have my own work that I'm pushing and highlighting on this channel, and I do comment on others. But I'm not. My goal isn't to present just to do what Kurt does, like where he is giving you the most rigorous, in-depth interviews and comprehensive deep dives into everybody's theories that are, rigorous. And that's definitely not what I do. I have my own stuff that I'm working on, but I'm not trying to compete with Kurt. Kurt has amazing content. I comment on it all the time. If you follow this channel, you should definitely follow Kurt's channel if you don't. But I would imagine that if you follow this channel, you probably already follow Kurt's channel. But yeah, I didn't get it from Kurt, but I've been accused of that many times. He knows that. But yeah, it's been called out before, but that's not where it came from. Theory of Everyone. The reason why I have the name of this channel, I will go into that actually real quick because it's just so you know. Is if you go to sentientsingularity.com, you go to my website to see where my work is, and you go to writings, you can see the beginning of the paper that I've very slowly over years been working on. It's a project. Like that intro is a project. This is even more of a project, but it gives an overview of my theory of sentient singularity theory, and you can see if sentience is the primary structure of reality. And you could even say I would change that now to say if sentience is the primary nature and singularity is the primary structure of reality, then a true ultimate theory that unifies and contextualizes all other theories is more than a theory of everything. It is a theory of everyone primarily. And so that is why it's called Theory of Everyone. It's not about other people's work. It's about sentient singularity theory. Is why it's called Theory of Everyone. It's sentient singularity theory is the theory of everyone. This channel isn't about everyone's theory, but I understand why that's confusing because I do comment on other people's work. I use the last one for my own channel. I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, I like that one. I made that piece of like geometric art a long time ago. It's the background of my phone, and yeah, I made it after a metaphysical revelation. But sounds like idealism. It's very similar to idealism, but it's much more specific than idealism. Idealism is it's much more specific than idealism. There's specific models in sentient singularity theory of cosmogenesis, of the quantum of concrescence, of causality. It's idealism is kind of like it's like there's a lot of idealistic theories, and I guess you could say that sentient singularity theory is an idealistic theory. So it's a theory within the category of idealism, but it's much more specific than idealism. And it's also I've gone into this before with the video that's linked below in the Theories of Everything, the how-to guide, that the name of a theory is extremely important, and because it is actually like it's basically the ultimate distillation of your theory is the name. It's like you have your theory, you have your paper, your models, whatever. And then within sentient singularity theory, there's actually there's animations of the theory of the models. They are animated models. There are two-dimensional as so far as I've made them. So so far, but I'm hoping that they can be more animated eventually. Like this is an animation of Sentient Singularity Theory's models. This is this right here. This is cosmogenesis. This is a series of equations testing to see the stability of a division, of an initial division of being within the very initial creation of multiplicity within existence. So, and you get a stability, you get a series of cosmogenesis of quanta of concrescence that are happening here. You can see. And this is basically showing the evolution of the universe on a fundamental level and the periodicity of sentience that it goes through. And so this is basically a hadron is an assembly of quarks, an atom is an assembly of hadrons, a molecule is an assembly of atoms, an assembly of molecules is a cell, an assembly of cells is an organism, and it goes until you reach a singularity, and then it recreates another within itself and continues this process. And so this is a 3D animation of this basically two-dimensional model. So this is the two-dimensional like static model, but it is calculative. This is, I mean, if I change this to 0, you'll see every single value changes to nothing. And no matter what I input here, I will change the values. But you get 1 is the initial. I think I probably just screwed this up. Yeah, no, I'm good. But it always starts with 1. You can't actually put 2 in there. It is 1 only. But it's just a constraint of existence. There's only 1 existence. So otherwise you could put 2 in, but you can't really. You can see it hasn't really changed the rest because there can really only be 1. But if there's 0, then there's nothing. But there's 1. And so, but this, and then you can see it's shown below here. But below in this model means within, really, and so that's why you're seeing this here. But this is evolution on a fundamental level. And basically what you can see here, where you see like we're on the cellular level here, anytime you see it going across like that, that is basically adaptation. So you see organism, and we've got adaptation, and like we've got genealogy and familial lineage and stuff, basically like sociological evolution happening, and then you've got technological evolution. And so it ends with a technological singularity, and it reproduces within itself. But this, what we call evolution in science right now, is just that. Just that. But really, it's a lot more than just that. And we are currently, right now, about here in the evolution of the universe. So we haven't even reached this yet. This hasn't even happened. So, yeah, it's much more that this, though, even this model is a collection of multiple other models that I made piece by piece. So first was this one, 4 primary perspectives, then was this one, the quantum of concrescence, and then was this one. And this one, the cosmogenesis model, was made a bit off on its own a little bit, but it connects, and it was made simultaneously. But this was the original, actually. Like, this was the actual original piece of work. It's been copied from various documents to various documents, but this is basically the kind of cleaned up, aesthetically cleaned up looking one. But this is actually the original piece of work. And yeah, it's fascinating. But this is much more specific than just idealism. Can we test or make actual predictions from your theory? Yes, you can. And there's been many predictions that I've made and then tested, and they were already proven. They're just not proven within sentient singularity theory, but they were things that I came up with as predictions, and then by applying the concepts of sentient singularity theory, and then I looked to see if they were predicted or not, or if they were discovered or not, and they've been discovered. There's also an experiment that I'm working on slowly. It's going to be years, but there is a specific experiment that I have been working on, kind of outlining. And there's when you're talking about a fundamental theory, and I talk about this in my Theories of Everything, the How-To Guide video, which if you haven't seen that, it's only about 20 minutes. It was entered into Kirchheim Mungel's Pace 1 contest, and it was one of the prize-winning videos. I highly suggest watching that. It goes into like what is it like to try and confirm a fundamental theory, which that's a much better term for. You seek confirmation, constant confirmation. You don't seek to prove it. You don't seek to falsify it, because you can't falsify it if it's true, because it's a fundamental theory. It's talking about fundamental structures which are everywhere that you look. And so they would be ever present. They're not falsifiable because there's no instance in which they don't exist. And then when you're talking about if you can't falsify it, then you can't prove it. Proving something and falsifying something are the same thing, actually. They're like it's like division and multiplication. They're the same action, two sides of the same action. Same thing with addition and subtraction. When you're talking about them fundamentally, when you're talking about them non-fundamentally, you're like, no, multiplication and division are not the same action. But when you're talking about fundamental singular holonic structures, like cells, and you're like, well, how does a cell multiply? By dividing. That's not a trick of language. It is a metaphysical truth. And so whether or not a cell is dividing or whether or not a cell is multiplying is just this. It's doing both at the same time. It's just two sides of one action, depending on what side of it you're looking at. From the inside, if you're looking at it from the cell's perspective, what's it doing? It's dividing. But if you're looking at it from like the exterior perspective, or from a goal-based perspective, even it's multiplying. Same thing with addition and subtraction. It's like when you think about, let's say there's a cake, and there's two, and you want some cake, and I want some cake, or I want to give some cake to you, and I have the cake. There's only one cake. That's the only cake in the entire universe. And we can't make more cake. It's just this one cake. How do you get cake? How do I add cake to you? By subtracting from my cake. That's how. And so in that instance, again, when it's a fundamental structure, you're talking about initiality, if that's even a true word, even if that's even a real word. And fundamentality, they are two sides of the same action: addition and subtraction, and multiplication and division. And in reality, they're actually all the same. They're all the same action. They're basically the four primary perspectives of growth, which is like we multiply by dividing, and we add the amount. It's like, how do we multiply the amount of plates with cake on them? By dividing the cake and subtracting from my plate and adding to your cake plate. So now we have all four of these actions taking place. We're adding to your plate. We're by subtracting from mine. We are dividing my cake in order to multiply the amount of cake, pieces of cake that people get. And so we have all four of these perspectives taking place in this one action, and it's like the four primary perspectives of generativity. It's like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And so this, you can see that in these models. See, going on the toe channel has been part of the plan for quite a while. It has been part of the plan for quite a while, but that's not up to me. That's up to Kurt. When it is all lining up, Kurt ended up getting busy with some things. And then Tyler was also, we both just got busy. And if I ever go on, that's up to him. It's not my channel. But I would be happy to go on. I will say this, it's a good thing that it was delayed, because my ability to speak about this, I'm not saying I'm at where I want to be, because I think that you're never done. Like, you can always improve, but I'm certainly so much more clear with my ability to speak about my models and my work, and I'm able to just be much more coherent. The problem is that you kind of need to give it all a go in this multi-houred explanation, which is coming. I'm working on it. And, kind of a paper-based overview and a video overview, because I need to show the context in which these models make sense in order for them to make sense. I can't just be like, these are my models and you better believe them, because why would you? They don't actually make sense within necessarily like all of the mainstream narrative. I mean, neither does most of the theories that are going on Toe, though. Like, that's just true, because most of them are suggesting that consciousness is fundamental. I don't know if it's most of them, but like some of them are. And mine is one of those. I mean, I would say sentience. I don't even want to say consciousness. And that's what I mean, though. Like, I've gotten much more specific in my language. Very important. He skipped over particle generations and hierarchy. I didn't skip over particle generations and hierarchy and biochemistry and so on. I didn't. I'm talking about fundamental structures. And particle generationality, when we're talking about if you're talking about the elementary particles in the standard model, like electron, muon, and tau, and electron, neutrino, muon, neutrino, tau, neutrino, and up quarks and charm and truth or top. They change. I know that depending on who you ask, it's truth quark or the top quark, and it's down and strange and bottom or beauty quark. Like, this generationality is explained within sentient singularity theory. It's not glossed over. There's models for it right here. And it has to do with a specific metaphysical relationship between us and the being that we are within, essentially. This nested hierarchical structure of interacting sentient structures creates this overlapping four-dimensional, two overlapping four-dimensional structures, because it's from your four primary perspectives overlapping with the four primary perspectives of the being that you're within. And because of that, you get this like six-dimensional structure, and that's why you get these particles and this appearance of generationality in the elementary particles in the standard model. But you see electron, neutrino, muon, neutrino, and tau neutrino for the same reason that you see like the three primary and three secondary colors. That's why you see the three generations of the masculine quarks, and that's my term, I know that, and the three generations of the feminine quarks, and again, my term, and I know that, but that's if you know what I'm talking about, then would know what that means, even if that's not the term you would use. But yeah, no, I didn't skip over it. It's just not in that specific model, but it's built into that model, but it's not, it comes from this model. Basically, you have these three overlapping, and which is, this is one being, this is another being. So this is like a cell inside of you, and this is, or you could say this is the universe, and this is us within the universe. And you get this symmetric set that's formed of perspectives. And you can see this within even like mathematical order of operations that I was just talking about. Multiplication, addition, subtraction, division, parentheses, which really means like grouping, and then exponentiation, which is kind of, they're all basically the same thing. It's the same three generations that you see. And again, you look at your senses, you see it in your senses. Your senses don't, you would think, okay, these senses, these are not generations, but they are. Sight and smell and hearing are three senses for perceiving structures that are interpreted as being beyond you. You see what's over there, you smell what's over there, and you hear what's over there. Emotion and taste and touch are senses that are interpreted as being things that are actually impacting you. You know, I'm impacted by that. That's, you know, emotion. I'm touched by that. That hurt me. That, like, you know, it's super physically impacted you. Then you get emotion. But taste, you have to touch your tongue to something. Touch, obviously, your sense of touch. You have to touch something. So this is, again, three generations of senses. This is three generations of senses. You can look here and you can see the fermions: electron, neutrino, muon, neutrino, tau, neutrino, electron, muon, and tau. Bosons, you got them again. And no, I know there's no Higgs, because I don't believe that we understand exactly the Higgs or the graviton properly. They're two perspectives of the same structure. But you're inside the graviton. That's prediction of sentient singularity theory. You're never going to find a graviton like by looking for it the way that we look for like photons. We're not inside the photon. We're inside the graviton, is a way of thinking about it. You've got forces, you know, space-time, past, present, future. It's the same thing. These generationality of particles is right here. And it's due to this thing, this overlapping structure that I talked about. But what that is it's this. It's that this is overlapping with this. There's molecules inside of cells. There's cells inside of organisms. Because they're overlapping, you're getting this interaction taking place. And because of the overlap in perspectives, you're getting this six-dimensional manifold, which I think is the Calabi-Yau manifold in string theory. That's another prediction of my work. That six-dimensional structure in every point in space and time. What that means is it's a six-dimensional structure at everywhere point that you look. And so that's what this is. It's everywhere you look. You can do this endlessly. Food groups, you can do it. Fundamental solids, sphere, tetrahedron, cube, octahedron, icosahedron, dodecahedron. People focus on these five, but there's a sixth one. It's a sphere. Same thing with senses. People focus on these five: sight, taste, smell, touch, hearing. But there's a sixth one, and it's emotion. It's your feeling of your sense of self, your you-ness. That's what you're feeling. That order of operations is, you know, if you were thinking about it, kind of not looking at an equation, you would think about it like this: just actions, because parentheses isn't really an action. It's just like it's grouping. It's just a perspective of taking something as a whole. The numbers, I'm not an expert on all of these things, but some of them are, I mean, I'm an expert on this, as are you, unless you're missing some limbs. But, arms and legs and hands and feet and fingers and toes. You can do this just by looking at anything, and you will be able to just dissect it into this triadic generationality. That's due to you. It's not that the particles are just like that. It's because that's how a mind works. Your mind is organizing information, and in quantum mechanics, it's kind of an unfortunate situation, or it seems like it, because it seems like this great objective thing, but really it's not. It's not anymore. It's just as subjective and as the 3 primary and 3 secondary colors. Why are there 6 colors that are 3 primary, 3 secondary? It's like, why are there 3 generations of electrons and 3 generations of neutrinos? It's the 3 primary and 3 secondary. It's the same thing. So no, I did not just skip over generationality. You can have AI classify and sort the various religious delusions and willing illusions and bias sets, right? I don't know what you mean. He needs 2 to 20 years of looking into things done already. I don't know what that means. Well, let's not forget that there's different levels of cake mix. There is. There are. I don't know which one is grammatically correct. Cakiness. Mind. Cake makes me hungry. Cake makes me hungry. I didn't really like cake as a kid. Then I was an ice cream cake kid. I like cheesecake. I like ice cream. I'm not like a cake person. It has to be really good cake. Using quantum and not fully knowing it all. Oh, of course, here we go. It all and skipping past important is crazy though. Quantum is not a word that physicists invented. It existed prior to physicists using it. People say don't use the word quantum because that's a physics word. Don't use the word singularity. Singularity and quantum are words that existed prior to physics, and they don't get to claim those words. Those words, I'm using them according to the textbook dictionary definition of the term. And I don't care what physicists have to say about it. It was a word that existed prior to quantum mechanics being mapped at all. And I'm using it perfectly in alignment with that definition that has always existed. Pions. Do you know singularities break a lot, right? Oh my gosh, a lot of religious delusional speak. Religious delusional speak? Like what? Like what? The infinity leading to everything falling in at light speed. Okay. I'm talking about a single point. A singular structure. Do you know what is a singularity? You are a singularity. You are a sentient singularity, a singularity of sentience. That's why we say someone, singular. This is not a physics-only term. Physicists don't even know what it really is. I don't care what they say the math says about it, everything falling into a single point at the speed of light. It's because there are specific reasons why singularities don't make sense with our physics. Like they seem to break down. It's like when space-time breaks down. Yeah, it's when space-time breaks down. And that makes perfect sense within Sentient Singularity Theory, that space-time would break down at an initial point. And I'm not talking about black holes. Like, I don't know exactly what, like, I have theories about like what a black hole is, but metaphysically, I don't know if it's true or not. So I'm not going to get too into them. But like the singularity at the initial be beyond the initial existence of multiplicity within the universe, basically beyond the Big Bang, you could say, that makes perfect sense that space-time breaks down. Like within sentient singularity theory, there is an explanation for space-time in sentient singularity theory. There isn't an explanation for space-time in our current physics. So I don't think that, I mean, what they can't claim the word singularity. They don't have an explanation as to even what it is. And I can tell you that from a first-hand perspective, I am a single person. I am a singular person. I'm not a single person. I'm married, but I am a singular person, singular being. But please hit the like button if you find this interesting, and if you don't, tell me why in the comments. But I want to talk a bit about causality tonight, and I'm, I know you stated laborious cretin. That's your. I hope I'm not insulting you. If that's what people think who aren't reading the chat, that's what his handle is. But in sentient singularity theory, it is proposed that, and this was something that I came to very objectively, like this was not my initial hypothesis of the universe, but is that existence itself is a single sentient being. It seems logically inevitable. So the context of everything that I'm going to talk about always on this channel, just know that's what I think is logically inevitable. It seems to be. And that's all I'm stating. I'm not pushing any single religion or anything like that. But I do believe that we're inside a sentient being, just like your cells are inside of you. We are inside of another sentient being. We are basically cells in an organism. And that existence itself is a single, you could say, organism that inevitably must exist, cannot not exist. Like people say, oh, can God create a rock so heavy you can't lift it? That's not even, if you understand the context of even what creates the perception of space-time, then that's not a good argument at all. A better question is like, does God have any limits to his power? And I mean, the limit would be like, he can't, it seems like, I'm not going to say this is true because I don't know for sure, but because I'm perceiving this from inside the system, but of logic itself. But I do believe, based on what logic seems to imply, is that God, or meaning existence itself as a sentient being. That's what I mean by God. I don't mean like anything that you think it is. I just mean that. That's it. And that being could not exist even if he tried, even if he wanted to like get rid of his own existence and end his own existence. He cannot end his own existence. That is a constraint of God, a constraint of sentient existence. And that's a much better and more interesting question, is like, God can't end his own existence. He's eternally doomed to exist. But I don't know if doomed is the right word, but might as well make others. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty boring. But there's also no time, though. So because time is the perception of multiplicity, is the perception of causality beyond you. And if you're all that exists, then there is no causality beyond you. So you don't have the perception of time. I'm also single. Well, I'm not single, but I am a single being. But you are a single being. But that, I don't know if that means that you're single. But I recommend marriage if you're not single. If you are single, it's great. Or it can be made to be great. You have to make it great. You do it. It's not just great. You have to make it great. But you can make it great. Do you think the weather is sentient? No, I don't believe the weather is sentient. I believe that the universe is sentient, but not the weather. Basically, imagine you're a cell inside a body and you're like seeing all these processes go on all around you. Weather. But not, those processes are not sentient. I don't even believe like organs are sentient. Like your heart is not sentient. Your hands are not sentient. Your cells are sentient in sentient singularity theory, but that's it. And certain molecules are sentient, and probably atoms and hadrons, not electrons, not any of the elementary particles in the standard model. Those are not sentient in sentient singularity theory. Those are force points that are being perceived, and interaction points and focus points and things like that that are being perceived by us as we maneuver through the dynamic universe that is also moving. You know, we're inside a moving being, a living being, that has goals and is executing those goals and taking actions, just like your cells are inside of you while you execute your goals, take actions, and maneuver through your existence. Such an interesting, and that was not my initial hypothesis in life. You know, I was an atheist, for self-described atheist, for like 24 years, but yeah, that's so much more interesting. It doesn't matter that's more, it seems more interesting. That's not why I think it's true. I think it seems logically inevitable, and there's many arguments for that. There's many reasons why that seems logically inevitable. Is it provable by me? No. But is it confirmable? Does that perspective allow you to make predictions that are constantly confirmable? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it does seem perfectly aligned with anything that we seem to know in science. Not what we think we know, but like what we actually seem to know. And that's not as much as we think, but there are certain things. But yeah. Are you familiar with the Rulliad? Yes, I am familiar with the Rulliad. Stephen Wolfram's Rulliad is basically like, it's basically sentient existence and sentient singularity theory. It's the space of all, I think he calls it like the space of all possible actions or something like that. And that is, it's the rule maker. Sounds like God to me. The Rulliad. So in your model, does sentience require brain or some sort of neural network? No, it doesn't. It has to do with certain constraints and degrees of freedom that allow for information ordering that allows for it to like self-loop back on itself. And there are specific, those are very specific, but they're not, it doesn't require a brain. A brain is like, it's the knot of a bunch of perceptions interlocking and kind of like tangled together, which is why it looks like that. But that exists in cells that exist. I mean, you look at a cell under a microscope with no brain, that thing maneuvers through its world. It does its job. It rests. It eats. It produces waste. It responds. It does everything that we like look at and classify life as doing, but so does so much more than just cells. There are molecules that do that, and there are elements that atoms do that. Protons and neutrons do that to some degree. Like that's they react and maneuver and respond to stimuli in their world. It's not, and they have the right constraints and degrees of freedom that make me think that they are sentient. Electrons do not, but protons and neutrons do. They have this binary triadic nature to them, to their information structure that allows for decision making. And so when you are making a decision, the reason why you perceive this like 6-dimensional thing is because we're in this interacting structure, but this triadic this triality that somebody mentioned earlier when they're talking about generationality, but like it's more than just you listen to Eric Weinstein, he says it's really, one of them is an imposter, he says. I would say one of them is a constraint. So there's always, in sentient singularity theory, 2 degrees of freedom plus an intrinsic constraint plus an extrinsic constraint. This is kind of how your mind orders things. You can't have 3 degrees of freedom in reality, like from a first-hand perspective. There's, from a third-person perspective, you can say up, down, you can go length, width, height, and height, X, Y, Z, 3 degrees of freedom. But from a first-hand perspective, which is fundamental, which we don't take as fundamental, we take it as non-fundamental. Basically, we say it's not objective, it's subjective. So we cast it aside and we think that that's not the most fundamental way of looking at the world. We think, being objective is the right way of looking at the world. It's much more fundamental. And that's not true at all. You can't actually be totally objective. You're looking at this objectivity from a subjective standpoint. But these when you're talking about choice, which is one of the components of causality in sentient singularity theory, which is a good way to lead me to this. There's 2 components to causality in sentient singularity theory. There is choice and there is determinism. They are not conflicting. They are dependent concepts in sentient singularity theory. And so, but when we're thinking about choices are always a binary, this or that. That's why when you get a multiple choice test and it's for A, B, C, or D, you go, okay, well, it's definitely not that one, so it must be one of these 3. It definitely isn't that one of these 3, so it must be one of these 2. And then between these 2, it's probably more likely that one. And what you did is you took 4 choices and you reduced them into a series of 3 binary choices instead of 4 choices. And so this is something that we're going to talk about tonight a little bit, which is when we're talking about information change and how there's a certain number of perspectives and a certain number of actions that take place within any type of information change. So here, for instance, when we're going to talk about information change, what is important to recognize, and this is something that is why it's important not to think about this in this weird objective sense, but in this super subjective sense is the way that you want to think about it, is you have to maintain information coherence. Information does not exist outside of it informing. Okay? It doesn't exist. There's no information outside of context. Information is context. There is no information outside context and information inside context. There's information that might be outside your context, but it's not outside of context completely. There is no such thing as information that is outside context completely, because context is information. And so when we're looking at like a matrix, and we want to change information in it, there's always 2 different ways of looking at it in order to allow it for us to make all the changes and maintain coherence. And so I'm going to show that here. And then I actually have an animation of it as well on my channel that you can look at later and kind of like pause through. And I will say that the language in it is not how I would describe it now, but the visuals are the same. And so these are 3 different like size matrices. I don't even know what's the right way to say that. But you have 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, and that's as high as I went. And I one day do plan on taking it higher, but it takes actually like a lot of work to do this. So what the point is to basically change all the zeros to ones, or all the reds to greens, or all the ones to zeros, or all the greens to reds. So basically we're flipping everything. This is the initial state. This is the goal. How do we do that? Well, if imagine you're inside of the matrix. You're not looking at it from the outside. So you can't see all of them at once. you can only move between each cell. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Cube or Cube 2. Terrible movies, but also like totally fascinating. Like sci-fi B movies that are just about like people inside this like giant cube of rooms that keeps moving around. And it's like trying to kill them the whole time. It's really graphic, but I don't know I don't think there's a I think it's one of those movies that you feel like there's this deep message in it, but there really isn't. But I don't know. Maybe there is, and I missed it. But it is a fascinating movie for some reason. There's something about it. And imagine you're in that though. You're inside this building of rooms that's a giant cube, and those are just moving. Kind of like you've got to go. You're moving. Like the rooms don't need to move, but you are moving, and you are changing. Like imagine there's a button in each room, and there's a light in the middle of the room, and it's either red or it's green, and you've got to go in there and hit the button, and you got to change it to or there's a switch. You walk in room, and you have to change the color each time that you walk into the room. If it's red, you got to change it to green. If it's green, you got to change it to red. You got to maintain coherence in this to some degree, but I'm not giving the best example of the metaphor because there's a bit more to it, but this is kind of what's going on here. And my point is you're inside of the matrix in this first perspective. You can't, if you're outside the matrix, you could just look at this and be like, okay, I'm just going to basically, you're just going to change it like, let's go. Here, you're kind of like, I see all the ones that are, I can see that all these ones are red, these three, and then all the rest, these three and these three are green. So I'm going to change them in all the greens at once and all the reds at once. And so, but that is something you can only do from outside. Inside, you can't do that because you're just stuck in here. You have no idea what color this one is, or this one, or this one. Maybe this one, but not this one or this one. It just depends on where you're at. You have no idea, but you got to go from room to room, one at a time, and you don't know the color of the room until you're in it. But if you've got a God's eye view, you can just do this, one shot. And you can always do it in 4 states and 3 actions, which adds to, is that 7? Too many numbers on my screen. But you can, it's no matter, what's interesting is that no matter what size the matrix is, 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, 8x8, it's always going to be 4 states, 3 actions every single time. If you're changing it from this God's eye view, where you're changing all the reds at once and all the greens at once, or all the yellow, or all the ones at once and all the zeros at once, or all the ones and all the twos, whatever it is. But it's binary. When you're going and you're inside the matrix, you're much more constrained. And then it does matter how many cells the matrix is in how many states and actions it takes to complete the change of the information. And maintain coherence. So here this one is red, so you change it to green. Boom. Then you go to the next cell. It is green here, and so you change it to red. Boom. Action. You go to the next state, which is here, and then this one is this one is green, and so you're in this room now. You change it to red. Action. And then again, and you do it one more time, and then you're done. You've changed all the ones to zeros or all the greens to reds, and vice versa. Now you have 4 states and 5 actions in a 2x2 matrix. Count as 9 of basically perspectives. You have 5 states that you perceive, 4 actions that you perceive. 9 is the amount of information in this change that you can perceive. It's like a count of the amount of information that is contained in this whole sequence of events is 9. Fascinating, right? This is a piece of information. 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 This is a piece. This is a piece. This is a piece. This is a piece. And that's 9. 3 by 3, 19. 10 states, 9 actions, 19. 4 by 4 matrix, 17 states, 16 actions, 33 is the number of information. I don't know the term for this number. We don't have a term for this in science currently, as far as I know. Maybe we do, and mathematicians can fill me in, and they're like, hey, we already know this, and it's this, it's called that. And I'll be like, okay, cool. And guess what? Confirmed. Again, another instance of, sentient singularity theory is one of the models, or the concepts at least, being confirmed. That doesn't prove the theory, it confirms a model. I love Cube 2 because I'm an idiot. I've watched it like 100 times. Dude, I've watched Cube 2 like 100 times too. If you were a night owl and you have trouble sleeping at night, and you were a kid in like the 90s and 2000s, it played on the Sci-Fi Channel every single night, basically, between like 2 and 4 a.m. I would watch it with my brothers. It's just it's a fascinating movie, but I don't know why. I really have no idea. I think it's just the mystery of it. They never tell you why these people are there, who put them there. You never find out. And it's clearly like an enormous amount of resources that has been put into like just putting these people in basically like a rat maze, like a lethal rat maze. And you're just like, there's gotta be a reason, but they never give it to you. But this is what I'm talking about. So a 4 by 4 matrix, though, you're going to change a 4 by 4 matrix from a God's eye view, and it's going to be 4 states and 3 actions. You're going to change a 3 by 3 matrix, it's going to be 4 states and 3 actions. You're going to change a 2 by 2 matrix, and it's going to be 4 states and 3 actions. Again, no matter what. But it's going to scale if from the interior, if you're changing it one step at a time. This is kind of, I believe it's very similar to the difference between quantum computing and classical computing to some degree. I don't know. I don't think that even people working on quantum computers truly understand quantum computers right now. And that makes perfect sense, because I don't think that quantum physicists understand quantum physics right now. So yeah, I'm not claiming to completely understand it, but especially quantum computers. But I do think I understand the context of quantum physics, at least, which is not understood by the mainstream. But yet, currently, it will eventually. That's changing. It's not just me. Like Stephen Wolfram and his Rouliad and his observer theory. I said years ago, before he called it observer theory, that that he was going to reach the conclusion that these atoms of space that he's talking about. Here's a prediction of sentient singularity theory, but I'm making it within observer theory, which is Stephen Wolfram's work. But the way, observer theory starting to sound strikingly similar to sentient singularity theory. But these atoms of space in his work, I believe, will end up eventually being recognized as observers. That's the reality of that theory. There is no little tiny atoms of space. It's that a sentient singularity is a causal structure and a perceiving being of space. Like it is responsible. Every sentient being interacting with each other, knowingly and unknowingly, is responsible for the creation of the perception of space and time. And so that's what these little atoms of space that he's talking about. When we're talking about fundamentality, it's not about size. So it's not about little or big. It's about inside, outside, separate, and oneness. Those are the 4 primary perspectives that define perception of relationships of multiplicity, but beyond relativistic context. So there's no bigger or smaller or faster or stronger, darker or lighter. It's just inside or outside. A cell is inside of you. And so in these four primary perspectives, which are the basis of, they are the most foundational model of sentient singularity theory. And I think that they are the foundation of philosophy even. They are self-defining, they're co-defining. So inside means separate and oneness. So a cell is inside of you. It is separate and one with you. Separate and one. And you know, your friend or your dog is outside of you. It's separate from one with you. It's separate as inside or outside of oneness, and oneness is outside and inside of separateness. They're all co-defining. And as soon as you perceive one, you understand and conceive of all. So if you perceive yourself as inside of your house, you have to recognize that you are separate from your house, and you have to recognize what is your house and what is not your house. So what is one with your house? What is not one with your house? What is one with you and what is not one with you? What is separate from you? What is one with you? And what is inside and outside? Just by thinking of, you know, I'm inside my house. Okay. Now I have also conceived of all of these primary perspectives, even just from the perception of one. It's like when you look at a coin and you see heads, you know tails. Like if I show you, if a coin, I flip a coin and it lands on my hand and you see that it lands heads up, you know it's tails down. You don't need to check underneath it. You know it's tails down. Same kind of thing. But it's the foundation of understanding, of orientation, self-orientation, and which is orientation. There is no orientation other than self-orientation. But here's a, you go to my channel, you go to Theory of Everyone. Oh, nice. On top of the list. That's good. Shorts, and you go to, not shorts, videos. And you go to shorts, videos. It's a little bit, oh, here we go. There's tons of videos here. This is an overview of my models. This was way before it was even called Sentient Singularity Theory. I changed the name after on the video. So you're going to see a lot of different terms, but you'll see a lot of similar models in this video and in this video. But here we go here. So there's a lot of words here, and it doesn't really matter what that says because I probably would have changed what I say anyways here. But this is an animation of what I was just showing you. And again, I don't stand behind any of this, stand by any of what I said here. I don't even remember. Some of it I'm sure I would, but I don't know what I'd have to reread it. This was, 3 years ago that I made this video. It was like, I can't believe I made this 3 years ago. Gosh, time is flying by. But this is the same thing I just showed you. This. 17 and 16, 33. And then here's the outside God's eye view change that you can do, where you change all the reds at once and all greens at once. You maintain coherence. Fascinating, though. This is like, causality is information constrained in some ways. Not even in some ways. It information is context. And so what information change is fundamentally is the changing of the context, but while preserving context, if that makes any sense. You're like changing the context of context while preserving its context. It's an odd way of describing it. Probably not the best. But you know what is as when I'm talking about like this inside, outside, separate, and oneness, you know what is separate from you because you know what's one with you. You know what's one with you because you know what's separate from you to some degree. Really what it is that you know what's separate from you because you know what's one with you. That is, there is actually like a directionality to it, but there is a dependence to it as well. And that's that binary aspect of like differentiation. Whenever your mind takes in information, which I would say, when somebody asked earlier, do you have a brain? By the way, if you find this interesting, please hit the like button. It really does help. When somebody asked earlier, does sentience require like a brain? No, sentience, but minds are sentient. That's what I'll say. Mind is sentient by definition in sentient singularity theory. You are a mind. You have a brain. You have lungs. Just like you have lungs, and you have a heart, and you have all these things, but that's not what makes you sentient. You have those things. You aren't those things. You are not a brain in a jar. That's not what you are. You are a mind. It is the totality of your being. It extends even beyond your body, but it is definitely encompassing of your body. And but it's beyond your body. That's why, it's important to clean up your desk. And I do that before every stream. As I clean up my desk, I tidy up the room a little bit because it helps me order my thoughts. Could you imagine if you think I ramble like now, could you imagine if I let this place be in shambles and then I had a stream? It'd be terrible. And that's your phone, your calendar, everything. All of these things are extensions of your mind as you incorporate them. It's not an extension without you incorporating it. You have to incorporate it, but it is part of it if you incorporate it. Your ability to calculate and make decisions is inclusive of your calculator. If you have a calculator and you use it, but if you don't have a calculator, or you have one and you don't use it, then it's not incorporated into your ability to calculate. But this is just a very important thing to remember, is you are a mind, you have a brain. A cell, your cells, each one of them is a mind. They don't have brains, but they are minds. And that's so much more simple than most people make it. Most people make it so complicated. Like, what is a mind? What is a brain? And, we're little brains. No, cells are little brains and things like that, but that destroys the meaning of the definition of the word when we use it to describe the organ that's within our body. No. You are a mind, you have a brain. Here's an interesting, I've talked about this before, but just thought experiment that I don't know if we'll ever be able to answer. I don't suggest trying it either, but maybe someday somebody probably will. Is like if you were to do a brain transplant, you had two people and you swap their brains, what would happen? Would you now have you had Tony and Timmy and they both swapped brains? What is it? Does Tony now have Timmy's brain, or does Timmy now have Tony's body? Fascinating. I would say that it's probably, I don't know, because I think there's more to this metaphysically going on that would make it kind of circumstantial, which really sounds weird. And also dependent upon intentions to some degree, which makes it even weirder. But and I can't even go into that because I don't have the ability to talk about it yet, but I think about it a lot, but not out loud, so I'm not gonna try right now. But I think that when we say, oh, now so and so has so and so's body, the brain is part of your body. Is the reality of it. So it's actually like the fact that we even say if we swapped brains, are you swapping bodies or are you swapping brains? It's like, no, I actually think that a better way of understanding it is like you're swapping organs. It's like if I did a heart transplant, we swapped hearts or lungs. It's like now I have your lungs and you have my lungs. Well, now you have my brain and I have your brain, but like I'm still me and you're still you. That's what I actually think would happen. And it's funny because like I've asked doctors like what their thoughts are, and pretty much all of them tell me they think that if you swapped brains, like you would change, the people would be in different bodies now. I think that's wrong. That's a prediction of sentient singularity theory. I don't know if we should test it. I don't know if it would change, if the outcome would change depending on intentions and all kinds of things, which I actually think might have an impact. But I think that the answer, regardless, would be different than we expect. It would not just be, oh, so-and-so swapped bodies. I think that you would like now have different computational abilities, like you'd have a better memory maybe, or you'd be like a better visual spatial intelligence, or like you would have different preferences. Like you would have, oh, now I love chocolate and I didn't like chocolate before. Now I like, spinach and I didn't like spinach before. But you like spinach and so now I like spinach. It's like that kind of thing is more likely to happen than, oh, now we're in different bodies. I think that even our terminology has screwed up our ability to discuss this possibly. When we say we swapped brains, or do we swap bodies? It's like, no, you don't swap brains or swap bodies. That's like saying, do we swap hearts or swap bodies? Or do we swap lungs or swap bodies? It's like, what do you mean swap lungs or swap bodies? We're swapping lungs. That's what we're doing, But when we say we swap brains or swap bodies, it's because brain has become kind of a stand-in for the word mind. Your mind is who you are. But it's like, it's like your structure, your metaphysical structure. It's your metaphysical informational structure. That's what a mind is. It's like your super physical body. It's not even like your body. It's like your super physical body. It's your context. That's what it is. It's your context. That's a good way of putting it. Swap the SIM cards. It's not like swapping the SIM cards. I do not believe it's like swapping the SIM cards. I mean, actually, I don't even know what happens when you swap SIM cards anymore. I have an iPhone. Like, you can't even do that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe you can. Yeah, there we go. I see a SIM card thing, but like, I don't know what happens when you do that. They don't make it easy intentionally. So in your model, this, yeah, it seemed very similar to the Ruliad. Yeah, it is. It's just I focus more on the who that being is a little bit, and in Wolfram's work, it's just very much like this structural. It's not thought of as a sentient being. If me and my friends swap SSDs and CPUs, Will his CPU and SSD have all my contents? No. Okay. Then yeah, maybe that works then, actually. I don't know. I'm not a computer guy, just so you know. I did upgrade like a very old laptop of mine, and I was getting more into computers, but then all the new Macs and everything, they're just so not you can't work on them anymore. This is so like this is kind of a side tangent, but if you follow along and you find this interesting, let me know in the comments. But I've thought about this before because they have like the MacBook Pro, the iPhone Pro, like, and really what they just mean by Pro is it's more powerful always. And I think that this is stupid. It's not. I don't want to say stupid. It's just it's a bad definition. Otherwise, why not just make it more powerful? Like is next year's normal, this year's Pro? Like why? What makes it Pro? It's even within Pro you can get faster upgrades and things like that from the factory, at least from Mac. But so I hate this term. What Pro should means professional, meaning like independent and like independently competent. Like you're not consumer, you are professional. You are utilizing these things as tools in like a much more expert type of way. And so what that should mean is like self-serviceable. Like something to be pro is like you can upgrade the hard drive. You can upgrade the RAM yourself. You don't need to it's not just bought. Like I have a MacBook Pro from 2009. I don't even turn it on anymore, but it's, somewhere. And I got it in high school or college. And like I dropped that thing while the hard drive was spinning multiple times while watching Netflix and crashed the hard drive. And then eventually I was like, I'm putting a solid state drive in here. And I swapped everything out. I swapped the RAM. I'm pretty sure, I mean, this was many years ago. I upgraded the RAM. I swapped the hard drive for a solid state drive. That thing, I bet you if I booted it up, it could hold its own up against like, not in every program, but in terms of its speed and abilities, even within what it is running, which is very old software, probably 10 years old at this point. It would be just as fast as probably most other computers that are modern. Not in running new software that's a 10-year-old solid state drive in there at least, maybe a little older, but probably older. But still, like that's what Pro should mean. Pro should be like a hard definitional difference. Like this is a Pro product. This is a consumer product. And instead it means something different, which is just like it's more powerful. In cameras, I was a photographer. Like my wife and I were both professional photographers for a few years. And like a Pro camera has a different aspect ratio to its sensor than like a consumer DSLR camera, which is like they call it crop sensor. But I don't even know why that makes any difference. Like as far as like I know what it does for you, but like I don't know why they chose that, but it doesn't really make that much sense. Like looking back, probably made sense at the time. But the difference really would be like the difference between a point and shoot and a DSLR. Like you can change the lenses yourself in a DSLR. You can change the battery technology. You can add flashes and things like that. Whereas like a point and shoot camera is like, consumer. There should be a hard line is what I'm saying. And this is what Sentient Singularity Theory is about. It is about the hard lines between things. It's not about spectrums. It's not about bigger or smaller or faster or slower or brighter or darker or heavier and lighter. It's not about any of that. It's not about size. That's why whenever you hear somebody string theorists say like, where are these other dimensions? Maybe they're very, very small dimensions. Where are these? Even like Stephen Wolfram when he's saying, "Where are these atoms of space?" Maybe they're very, very small or something. No, that's not a fundamental theory. If that's the case, I'm not even saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, which I do think is wrong. But like, even if he wasn't, that's not a fundamental theory. Fundamental theory is a metaphysics theory about the differentiation of the fundamental information structures, which are sentient beings. They are the informers, they are the informed, they are the information. Pro is better for marketing. Exactly. That's exactly why they say it's a pro. At least it may be today. At some point in the past, I think it was a little different. Like there was a point, and you can look at this like, if you look at like the Mac Pro, that's still a pro product. I'm pretty sure. I haven't looked in years, but like that desktop is fully serviceable by you. I'm pretty sure. You don't just order from the factory and that's it. Like you can add more RAM, you can add more storage all yourself. Like that's a pro product. But the MacBook Pro is no longer a pro product. It is not something, it's something you order from the factory as is, and they put everything in and that's it. And you're stuck with it. You can't do any kind of maintenance on your own or upgrades. Pro is for professionals, though. MacBook Pros are used by video editors, programmers, as opposed to MacBook Air, which is used by most people. That's true, but, you know, there's a lot of people that do video edits now. Doesn't make you a pro. I do video edits. Am I a pro? I don't know, but I have a MacBook Pro. And I was a professional photographer, so I did do photo edits. But I don't think that that's what matters. Like that in this, like if the product itself is going to be different without like what if somebody who's not a professional is whatever that means, like is using a MacBook Pro, you know? But I know this is nitpicking, but like language is critical. It changes your ability to make sense of your world. Like when I said, oh, are we swapping brains or swapping bodies? That sounds like it makes sense. It might not make sense actually within a true metaphysical framework. It doesn't, I don't think that it does. That's like saying, are we swapping lungs or swapping bodies? Or even it's like saying, are we swapping legs or swapping bodies? It's like legs are part of your body. Like, what do you mean? We're swapping legs. You know? There is no swapping. You couldn't say, are we swapping lungs or swapping bodies if it's one action? But people now think that if you swapped brains, you could say, what would happen? Would you swap brains or swap bodies? It's like, that's not even the right way to, like, if you thought about that properly, I don't even think that would make any sense. It's just, the only reason why that seems to make sense is because we believe that we're brains in a jar. Okay, let's see what time it is. Please hit the like button if you found this interesting a little bit. I know I didn't get too into like the quantum of concrescence yet, but I want to see what time it is. Or how, whoa, sorry. I'm checking my own stream on here. To see how long it's been going. Okay, we're at 1 hour, 23 minutes. I think I'm gonna call it. That's most laptops you get though, less and less upgradable options. Yeah, I know, I hate it. I really think it's wrong. I think that pro products should be personally upgradable. And I have a friend that's very into Macs, and he's actually watches this channel sometimes. So if he watches this, you'll know who you are. But like he'll be like, but that's not like. I'll be like, pro product should be swappable, like upgradable, and he's like, but that just doesn't make sense with the way that technology is moving. And I disagree with that. Look at the Mac Pro. Like, it's not that you can't. Yes, in order to make the best form factor, sure, the slimmest product, then sure, you wouldn't want to make it upgradable, but then you're just going to have to make it, you're just going to have to replace it like much quicker. Whereas my MacBook Pro that I had before lasted me from 2009 to 2017, 18, 19, probably 19, 2019, 2020 even. Yeah, 2020. And it's still going. I just replaced it. It's not with this. It's not like it didn't last. I mean, that computer like still working. And you know, I can upgrade, I can still put a new hard drive in that computer today. Like I could go out and buy a new hard drive. And I don't know if it would let, you know, that new hard drive would let me install the latest Mac, you know, software, but probably I should try that. Pros are solid for 5 to 10 years. Yeah. But not all of them though. Like not like my wife has a MacBook Pro. That thing, it's getting on its last legs. Like, and that thing, I don't know when that was made, but it was one of probably like 2015. It's really on its last legs. Like, whereas my Mac Pro from 2009 that I could continue to upgrade, I bet you I could put a new hard drive in it, and it already has a solid state drive in there, but I bet you I could put a new one in there. And I wonder if that would let me run like more updated Mac software. Maybe not. I don't know. Probably not. But that's I feel like that's intentional that they do that. But anyways, I'm going to go, guys. I hope you found this interesting. Please hit the like button. Please share, comment any questions that you have down below. I appreciate everybody who participated in the message. I don't want to ever come off as hostile to anybody. I hope that's not the case. But I just, you know, you throw fire, I'll throw fire back. But I don't hold it against anyone either. I appreciate the challenge always. And I really do. I'm not just saying that. So I appreciate anybody who joins, even if they disagree with me. And, you know, thank you for being with me tonight. With that, I will talk to you guys later. I will post when I'm going to be doing my next stream. It might be at the beginning of next week. So I have family coming into town, and so my schedule is going to be a bit different. But I will announce it on the channel in the like messages or whatever it's called, community messages. But with that, thank you everybody, and peace.